right, guys, this is the John Hollywood Show. Welcome to the John Hollywood Show. If you're joining me for the first time, welcome. If you're coming back for another episode, welcome back. I do ask one thing. If you get anything from this episode, please like, comment, subscribe, follow, all the things. Today, my guest is Beav. Beav has created a tactical baby gear company, which is phenomenal since I did an open box for it the other day. And the fact that I could get him on the show is amazing. Before I kind of run into everything, I'm just going to let Beav tell you a little bit more about himself. So
yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. And Jade was, she made sure that I saw that video. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh my gosh, video. That was fun to make. That was like,
I love the candid, authentic unboxing and reactions. And we learn a lot from that stuff, to be honest. So like the more of those kind of stuff, those types of videos that we see, it really helps us as a brand and a company continue to develop our products and make them better. A lot of the stuff that we do that you're very aware of from like the packaging aspect of it to make sure that your first impressions of the product and the brand are positive, good impressions, because most people are doing it just like you do. They're either receiving it as a gift, and so our packaging works very well for that, or you're pulling it out of a box that FedEx has dropped off, and you have a cool experience from the get-go. So that was very intentional, and I'm glad that came through for you. So.
Oh my gosh, it was like from piece by piece. You saw the reaction. Like,
yeah.
This
perfect.
It's amazing. And then I wasn't really familiar with all your products until I saw that box, and I was like, I got to look into this a little bit more. And then she was like, I knew you're going to love it. And because like everything that I do, especially at work, has to do with tactical operations. So it's like, how can you make the dad stuff cool? And that, it's right there.
That's what we did. Damn it. So let me tell you the backstory. Let me get everyone caught up to speed on how I got to where we are now.
Yeah.
And I'll try to do it as quickly as possible, and then we can kind of dive deeper into certain things if you want to. But I started this company back in 2013, 7 years ago this month, and because I come from an automotive background of building custom cars. I was not in the military. I was not in law enforcement. I have plenty of family members and people very close to me who were, and I have nothing but respect for those communities. And I'm very involved in a lot of that kind of stuff, but I'm like a gearhead, tactical gun nut sort of person. But I come from an automotive background. I was building custom cars, and I had a shop, and my wife and I had one daughter at the time. And at the time, also, my wife was working full time till 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. And she was wouldn't go to work until maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which meant that, I was picking the kids up from daycare, or my one daughter at the time, picking her from daycare, making sure that she was fed, doing bedtime, reading stories, changing diapers, fully involved, hands-on dad mode all the time. And then, we found out she was pregnant again, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be a boy. It's going to be a boy. It's going to be a boy. And it wasn't. It was a girl again. And I was like, fuck, I got to carry that purple bag again.
Yeah.
And, but that was kind of like the turning point for me. I'm like, you know what? The first time around, I carried her diaper bag nonstop. It was a purple bag, and it had her initials on all this stuff. And, but I was carrying it all the time. And you kind of get that, I'm man up. I'm going to be the dad. This diaper bag's not going to bother me. But then you get to the point where you're like, I don't really want to carry your diaper bag. All my buddies are making fun of me, like, hey, cute bag, bro. And you're like, and it kind of, I was like, sorry. So second time around, I'm like, I want my own diaper bag. If I'm carrying it as often as I am, I want one for me set up with the stuff that I want in it, and the stuff that I feel is necessary versus what I'm carrying. It's like, and then you're passing off the same diaper bag back and forth, and it's like, oh, hey, I left my wallet in the diaper bag. Can you bring it to me, and stuff like that? And you're like,
it's so true though.
Dang, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So, I started searching Google, and I was like, I'm going to, men's diaper bag for dad, stuff like that. And nothing existed. Nothing cool, really cool existed. There was the black or gray version of your standard diaper bags, but they still just looked like diaper bags.
It looks like a purse.
I'm like, this is not for me. So, because nothing existed, I kind of had this aha moment, and coming from an automotive background where we used to do a lot of sewing and upholstery and stuff like that, I was like, well, I'm just going to make my own bag. And of course I kind of, ventured towards the tactical side of, gear, aesthetics, because I was super into that kind of stuff, even more so then than now probably, but, just because I'm so busy. But I was like, man, this is going to be cool. And then my buddies were like, yo, that's sick. Like, and I was like, dang, like other people feel the same way. Like the same guys that were like, hey, cute bag are now like, yo, sweet bag. And I was like, damn, this is a good idea. And that's like when the light bulb went off. I'm like, man, it's not just me. Like other people feel this way too. And I'm like a tinkerer. Like I'm constant, like I have to be doing a lot of things all the time. Even though I had a full-time business then, I didn't really have time, but I knew that there was something there and I was not making a lot of money. I was pretty broke. And I was like, well, I'll just do this as a side hustle and I'll make these bags and sell them. And then that's when I had the idea for like calling it Tactical Baby Gear. And I went online to like GoDaddy and bought the domain. And I was on like LegalZoom creating like a legal business. And I went to Instagram and created the handle and Facebook and, you know, Pinterest and all these platforms and like just tried to like button it all up and like, I'm going to own Tactical Baby Gear on everything.
That's smart though. I mean, like you really capitalized it. And I'm sure at the time you were like, you know, the tactical stuff is getting a little bit more catchy and like the name itself is super inviting. And then Tactical Baby Gear together, that's got to be the way to go. So like when you're developing a new or a side hustle with another business and your wife's still working full time and you have a daughter and another daughter on the way, like how do you balance all of that like stuff at the same time?
Passion. So most of anything I've ever done, I've been super passionate about and I go 110% into it. Like my parents always supported everything I did, which I thought was just absolutely bonkers. Yeah. So I was like, you know, most of it was like pretty decent, genuine stuff. Like playing the drums, they always supported it. Like bought me a drum set, got me drum lessons, see things, and they were never like, "No, you shouldn't do that." They were always like, "Hell yeah, like let's do it." You know, even like when I bought my first car, they were like, "Let me just rip it apart." And I'm like, if my kid ripped apart their first car, they had no idea what they're doing. But they also knew, like, I was always passionate about it, 110% into it. I don't just start something and not finish it. And then my assistant's sitting here and she's like, well, there's a lot of things you don't finish. That's a different story. We can
I
get
love
into
the fact that like she's probably shaking her head on the like the side of the screen. Like, come on, Beav.
Well, that's a whole nother story. But like, things like this that I'm super passionate about, I'm like too dumb to quit and I will like work myself into the ground. And that's happened several times over the years, but more importantly, I've never lost the passion or the fire for it. So I've been willing to just grind it till 2 and 3 in the morning. So I would work in my car shop from, 7 a.m. till 6 at night. And then I would pick up my daughter from daycare, like right at 6, which is thankfully like right down the street. So I was like locking up the shop at like 5:55, picking her up by 6 so I didn't get charged the late fee, and that kind of shit. And then
robbery.
I would go home, cook dinner, do stuff, get her to bed, call it 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then I was just straight on the computer and like hustling, or really on the phone, hustling Instagram and, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's back, early days of Instagram. It was super organic. I had a great network of friends from the automotive business. So I was able to get some like shout outs from some really big names and big accounts with, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers. And like when I was ready to really launch this thing and I had something to like provide to to the world through a website, they can make a purchase. And I was like, sent some stuff out to some buddies. And I was like, yo, just give me a shout out, and they were like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that's super smart.
Some buddies.
You're developing something, especially so new, and the Instagram space is like flooded now. But it's like
now, yeah.
Then
there's still opportunity there, and it's harder for sure. 100%, it's harder. But like overnight, I had 13,000 followers. It was just like I remember refreshing my things, my notifications were like plus 100, plus 100, plus 100, plus 100, and I was like, holy shit.
So I've run into something similar to that with the whole TikTok space. So like in TikTok, it's overnight, like I'll wake up and there's 3,000 followers or something, like some crazy number. I'm like, what did I do? Like, did I break something?
You've been playing around on TikTok quite a bit?
Yeah, I'm sitting at like 64,000 right now.
That's
and
insane.
Then it's a natural funnel. So like I'm using the whole TikTok space and
as an top of funnel awareness.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm just me on there and I'm a normal ass dude. I have a cool job and I have a family and like my voice is kind of interesting and like people are like, oh my God, you look like Clark Kent. So like I try and utilize all those things to my advantage. And then like on TikTok, it like kind of catches fire and you draw the attention. And then from the top to these other branches and then down to the bottom, and it's working, and I love it. And you definitely create the engagement, which is amazing. But like it's crazy to see like what's next. But like to go back on topic, when you were growing on Instagram and trying to juggle everything and like the passion with it all, like I could definitely see how, like, if you don't have the passion, you don't see the passion.
There's a lot of people out there looking for a quick buck, or like trying to like I want to get rich quick kind of stuff. And it just doesn't work that way. Like nothing works that way that's worth having. Right. And it's sort of like some of those cliche sayings, but it's true. Like you have to really have that passion and drive, or otherwise it becomes a job very quickly and you get burnt out very quickly. And then you're moving on to the next thing that you think you can turn it into a quick buck. And that's just not the case. Like I started this and I was still working on cars up until like a few years ago when this partially because the projects and the cars that we were building, very high end stuff for very big name people, very expensive projects. And I've done stuff for like Alicia Keys and Phil Mickelson, the golfer, and some big names. And they're like, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for one vehicle that would take many, many months to build. And, we set a world record at Barrett Jackson for a Volkswagen bus we built, and stuff like, but those projects take time. So I had a shop full of these projects that would take 6 and 9 months to do. And, so I had to like finish those. I couldn't just be like, all right, well, I'm not doing this anymore. So I had to like I had to like stop taking in new business and then finish these projects. And once they were done, there's a couple guys, here that like worked with me through those years of working on cars. And then we like all transitioned together full-time in a tactical baby gear. So that's been really cool. And I've got just an incredibly loyal group of people around me who I could not have done it or gotten to where I am now without them. Both in the car side and in the baby gear side.
It says something about you. It says something about you as a person. Like if a group of people, the leader at the top is only going to be so good as the rest of the people that are around him. So like if they really see like this guy is it, like if he's going through some shit, we're there to really push him back towards where we need to go.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think that's the case. I don't really think of myself that way. I'm not one to like toot my own horn or be like, oh, it's all me, you know what I mean? Like, because I just don't feel that way. But there's something to be said for that. I try to make sure that we have a very good, fun company culture. We have a good time, but everybody, like when it's time to work and bust your ass, like we're going to put our heads down. We're going to get it done until it's finished. And then we'll bring our heads up and we'll have some fun for a little bit and we'll move on to the next thing. So
that's completely awesome. So away from the business side of things, let's talk about family. So sure. I have a 12-year-old son. And I have a little baby girl coming on the way. I had a son when I was 18. So I was like,
oh, wow.
I had a really broken home growing up and there was no father figure. So like the instructions on being a parent were like one dimensional because it was
I want to talk more about that in a little bit so don't let me forget. Jay, don't let me forget. Okay.
Yeah. But it was very like, there's no instructions. I have to figure shit out myself or figure out by the people that are around me and then kind of make these really tough decisions really young. So I was like, before I had a kid, all I did was skate, travel, and get into trouble. So it was like, I graduated high school early and then, here's this little person that you gotta take care of and you gotta
surprise.
Yes.
Figure it out.
He said, hello.
Yeah.
And what's funny is like, I'm going to go back on that, but like my son was asking me the other day, he was like, hey, so when is Sophia supposed to get here? I was like, well, whenever she decides to make her appearance, she's coming. So
what's the due date?
August 31st.
Oh, wow. That's like tomorrow, basically.
Yes.
Like you're in that danger zone of like, the baby could come early, like tomorrow.
She's in the room napping right now. Like, she can come out and be like, hey, tell Beav goodbye because we got to go to the hospital.
Yeah, my water just broke. So funny, man.
But anyways, like there's no instructions. And I know like when you had your first child, like, was there like that huge oh shit moment where you're like, I don't know what.
Of course, I think every parent has that. Like we say it all the time on our podcast. Like there is no instruction manual for this. Like thankfully, you tend to have some people around you in a perfect situation, right? Not everybody has that, but they're like giving you some guidance. But a lot of people, one, don't want to step on your toes and tell you how to parent, and then even though sometimes the ones that you like don't value their opinion. You're like, yeah, whatever, go away. I'm doing my own thing anyways. So yeah, it's a lot of like figuring it the fuck out where you're like, but you know what? I mean, the kids are resilient, as long as you're like feeding them and like nurturing them in that regard, like you're going to figure it out. And for the most part, there's a lot, and like there's doctors and things that'll help you. And there's thankfully now a lot of resources in terms of like Facebook groups and stuff like that you can turn to. But like there's the app, like financially, you're like, holy shit, how am I going to do this? And that's a huge, most parents are most new parents are broke as crap. Like let's go back to like the early days again, right? Like I was broke as fuck. Like I didn't know how I was going to put gas in my truck a lot of times. And I'm like trying to sew bags and sell them to make a few bucks to like feed my child. And then when I realized I could, like, that business had legs, I was building custom Kydex holsters to fund that business, to help grow that business. So then I was like, holsters was a great business. Cause I was like, that was like quick cash right now. Like I could be like, hey, I just made, 50 Glock 19 holsters. And then like people were just PayPaling me money. I'm like, sweet, I can buy dinner tonight. This is great.
Well, with the holster industry, there's like 3 people that were making holsters at that time. So it's like, if you're that fourth guy that's kind of like crawling up and the people around you are already supporting it, like,
yeah,
Safari Land is like $150 for a fucking holster. And
right.
That's all the options I got. So anyways, keep going on that.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of unknowns. You got the financial stuff that you're like, how am I gonna do this? And then there's just like the nurturing, and then you're like, am I gonna be a good dad? So then you start to have those like moral conversations with you and your wife of like, as your child starts to get a little older, like, how are we gonna deal with reprimanding our child? What's right? What's wrong? What's acceptable? Where's the line in the sand? Or if they cross this, we're not gonna, accept that. Like those types of things. And then you're going to figure out a whole nother world of WTF when you have a daughter.
Yeah.
Like it's, thank you. Like you've got some years to figure it out, but like, and as a company, what we're trying to do is shed light on a lot of those types of things and a lot of those situations, and have those conversations publicly with other people like yourself, or even my business partner, Alex, when we sit in here and do our own podcast. And those are the conversations we have. Like, I'm talking about my daughter having a sleepover, and she comes back and, her friend has a 15-year-old brother, and they're talking about things, and she comes home talking about things. And I'm like, oh, fuck me. How do I deal with this? And like, but like if people don't have those conversations publicly and other people can't listen to it and hear about it, like they don't know what to do either. So I'm hoping that some people can learn from our experiences and know what to do when they get there. Right.
Yeah. So like I'm in that stage of like, he's 12. He's about to be a teenager. He's pretty much
right. You're dealing with a preteen boy.
Yes.
And you're like, yeah, but here's the thing. You remember being in his shoes. So what's going through his mind and what you may think is acceptable or not because you were there. But I think it's hard. And I think moms deal with daughters the same way, right? Like she's 9. It's okay. Like it's, that's fun. That's normal. Trust me or whatever. And I'm like, this is not okay. But you know what I mean? And
it's I give my son the benefit of the doubt because his mom is a wonderful lady. I love her, but she's living her own life. And then like on my side of things,
you guys have separated then?
Yeah. Okay. We separated a few years ago, but it's like dealing with the whole co-parenting thing and then raising a teenage boy and the fact that like he's going through things that he hasn't really seen before and doesn't really understand. But like you just said, women, when they're going through it with daughters, are like, it's okay, this is normal. But like with him, I'm like, whenever I have him, I could teach him so many things and we could chill. Like you're over with your dad. We're going to do dad and son type shit. Like we're going to go do stuff. We're going to laugh. We're going to do, I'm not going to force you to watch movies with me, but I say we're going outside. We're going to go outside because the kids nowadays don't fucking go outside.
Right.
They'll get in trouble, dude.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You're like, yeah, go ride your bike, go jump a fence, get in trouble, like get hurt.
I mean, like growing up, I had 2 older brothers. So it was like, we were outside all the time. And if we weren't in trouble that day, we weren't messing around enough.
We weren't having enough fun.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So it's like,
this good, clean trouble, right?
I mean, back then it was like, we lived in a very very poor area. We grew up in like the mecca of ghetto and crime and all that shit. So it was like, if we wanted something, we had to go buy something and resell it. So I was selling candy. The entrepreneurship came really early, and it really made me respect the dollar a lot more. So it's like when I got a car and when I started driving, I got like a little 92 beater Civic. So I didn't have to, I paid $19 for a tank of gas that lasted me like a week and a half. Like
Honda for life.
That's what I'm saying, man. I got a Civic in the garage. I commute a lot, so it's like, awesome. Why not?
I'm a hardcore diehard Honda fan. I recently, talking about how broke I was, I recently bought an NSX.
Really?
Yeah. It's really cool.
How fun
that's
is
like
that?
That's like a token of like, and I put off buying it for a long time because I almost felt guilty by doing that. And then everyone else around me like, dude, you have busted your ass for 15 years. Just do it.
But as an entrepreneur, you're like, you don't want to go and put the prize before the work. So like, I'm sure that mindset was still there even after you've made success. Like, it's hard to make that huge like splurge purchase, even if it's something that's going to benefit you or you don't keep forever. Like,
yeah. Oh, I'm keeping it forever. But things like that also motivate me to want to do more, right? Like, there's things that you can reward yourself along the way that like motivates you to take it to the next step. Even like there's a guy locally that has a large company and he's done very well for himself and he's got an airplane and all this kind of stuff. But I saw he recently flew to like some crazy like mountain resort where he like flew. It's they have like private airport and he like flew in there. It's like real this, like you and I look at this as like this bougie, super bougie thing. But then he like leaves there and he writes his post on Facebook and he's like, this weekend was so cool. It's like I needed the getaway and the vacation, but because he goes to this location that's like this very premier thing, but he's there hanging out with like billionaires. Yeah. You know what I mean?
The 1%ers.
That like are way above his level. Like he's done very well for himself. He's just fine, but like then you kind of go and you start hanging out with other people that are even above you that kind of like give you like, damn. So now he's got that, he's like, it's motivated me to take my company to the next level and do more things and which is great for him and his family and his company and all his employees. Like he's going to keep growing this thing. And I mean, it's really cool. So there's things that you can do for yourself as an entrepreneur along the way that'll help motivate you that other people may judge you for, but if they're not on that level, they won't understand some of the reasoning behind it. And it just seems like this bougie, silly, like show off type thing.
So like I could relate that to a lot of things, especially with where I work now. But like the first time that I really saw it and knew it when I was young was, so like I started skateboarding at 11 or 12. And then by the time I was 15, I was sponsored. It was because I hung out with all these guys that were way better than me. So it was like, if he could do that, why the fuck can't I do that? So it was like he was learning something new and we were doing something together. So it was like, I'm going to learn that shit too. You're going to learn this. I'm going to learn that. I'm going to learn this before you learn it.
I was hardcore into skating as a kid. And I was, again, back to being super passionate and 110% into it.
Exactly,
like, all of my friends that I skated with I was like 12 skating with like 17-year-old kids, and it just made me want to progress and do better. And same thing, I was like sponsored by a local skate shop and I got like free stuff and whatever.
I mean, it's really nice being a kid with no fucking money and somebody's like giving you free stuff. Like, this is awesome. This is great. Sure. I could give this to all of my other friends. It'd be really cool, but like, how much does it matter now?
Yeah, right.
But I mean, going back to the whole family thing, like you like juggling being like there for your wife and being there for the kids and like being really focused into work. Cause I mean, being passionate about work and with this is you're like really strict on what you're doing and what you're learning and really focusing on that one thing. How do you really take the time to turn that shit off, like turn off the business stuff so you could turn it back on with the family?
I have a really hard time with that. I'll be honest. Like my work-life balance is like so out of whack. Yeah. Like it's not even close to balance. Yeah. But my wife puts me in check time sometimes. She's like, no, like, hey, we're going on vacation. We're doing these things and you're putting your phone down. Yeah. And it's hard for me to do. It takes me, before like the world started burning down, we would take like a 5-day trip. We'd go to Disney World or something with the kids. It would take me like 3 days to finally like turn off, just in time to be like, all right, we're going back home. So
I get it though. I get it for
tough,
sure.
And like, again, I'm super passionate about it. And not until, the last year and a half have I had a bunch of like help. So I was doing literally everything. Like I had my business partner who does a lot of the like operations and finance and like super nerdy spreadsheets and shit like that he
all the
absolutely
smart guy
loves.
stuff.
I hate that shit. Like that is not me. I'm super capable of doing it. I don't like to, I don't want to. It needs to be done. And he's the perfect person for that. And I'm very, very grateful for him. He's very good at what he does.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there you go.
Then, we've, over the years, as we transitioned from car stuff to this, like we've had, a transition some guys into customer service roles where they're answering the emails and making sure stuff's getting shipped out and exchanges and returns and things of that nature. But like my mind has always been on the marketing side, the community engagement side, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Like I don't turn it off. I can't turn it off. And I'm like, finally, like a lot of times get to checking some emails at 11 o'clock at night where I'm like finally like replying to things and shooting things out and sending random stuff. Hold on. How often do you see your emails from me and you're like, damn, that was like 11 o'clock last night. But
I totally get it. Like I worked 100 hours over the last week, and like, not to mention the stuff that I have to do with the channel. So it's like when I get the time to get back to start emailing with the channel, I'm like, oh fuck, it probably looks weird that it took me 13 hours to respond to this email, but like, this
Are you kidding me? How long did it take you to hear back from me?
I know that. I was like, he's busy.
He said yes, but damn it, I never heard back. but like I just hired Jade like what, two weeks ago, something like that. I literally just hired her because I recognized that like there's been points. This is why I continue to hire people. There's points where I realize I'm the bottleneck and people are waiting on me for this thing, or something's not getting done because I can't get to this thing. So I'm like, all right, I need somebody to do some of this because I can't do that all. And then I'm like, all right, I can still handle all this other stuff. They're just take a little bit off of that plate. And then it's like, shit, now I just can't handle all this stuff. And like, he's got that. And like, all right, hire someone else to do this job. And, and then I finally became, and I went through a few people. Anyways, I was just the bottleneck again. I was like, I keep, I'm like wanting to do things like podcasts and stuff because it helps spread our message. And there's, a lot of good stuff comes from it. But
I feel like it makes the customer more familiar with who you are as a person. Like it's not just some like bro guy at the top.
Relatable. Yeah. The company becomes relatable to a person that has a real story, who understands the trials and tribulations of being a parent and all these sort of things. And then just the side of it where like I have a personal brand side of things too, where I want to help like inspire and encourage people to chase their dreams and to do their own things and to grind hard and to like figure it out. But I want to educate them and help them through that process because it's been really fucking cool and been very good to me. And I want other people to realize there's a lot of opportunity out there. And I've been trying to, help educate people along those lines.
Staying on that topic, let's talk about that a little bit more. What kind of like key components did you really turn back to when it came like really fucking tough, like to really push you forward?
Nothing works better than hard work, right? Like, just, and then you have to be somewhat smart about it, but nothing works better than hard work and just continuing to put in the hours. We've been very fortunate, like we've made some very good decisions along the way and we've just kind of stuck to our guns. Like we set up a specific like business model for ourselves where we're like, weren't going to waver from that. So I think staying true to yourself is huge. Working really hard is huge, and being patient, being super, super patient. Like a lot of people look at us as like, they think it's an overnight success, but like 7 years this month, like that's not overnight. You know what I mean? So and not to mention the 10 or 12 years leading up to that point that allowed me to do the networking, to know the people, to get the shout out, to, you know what I mean? Like this is like a 15-year journey.
Yeah. No, a lot of people say that it's 10,000 hours. Like you don't even really taste progress until you hit 10,000 hours working on anything. So once you've clearly hit way more than that. So it's like to really say an overnight success, I think that only happens for like preteen kids that are on social media or these YouTube channels. Like, yeah, they're an overnight success because they said something catchy. Like
some people get lucky. There are very few instances of like an overnight success. But if you pay attention and you look into those, some of those are very short-lived too. Yeah, like it's an overnight success for like a year and a half, and then you never hear about that person again. And you're like, that's 15 minutes of fame. You know what I mean? Is what that is. Yeah. We're trying to build something meaningful that'll impact multiple generations, and that it'll be a long-term success and not just a few years. You know what I mean? Like we hope we hope that this is around in another 10 years, 15 years, or
it will be if you keep doing the same thing. I mean,
yeah, we're trying, you know, we question decisions we make every day. I don't pretend to have it all figured out. You know, we do a lot of things well, I think. And there's a lot of things that we're like shooting from the hip, to be completely honest. Like, we're not this big corporate company. And it's funny because I don't really know what the public's perception is of us. And I hear a lot of things about us. People freak out when they see me in an airport or at SHOT Show and they're like, oh my God, you're that guy. And I'm like, I'm just some dude that, like, I'm nobody, you know? But like I feel like, you know, we do have my understanding is like, we do have a pretty big brand that people like really latch onto. And it's like hard for me to even comprehend that, because I'm like, I don't know, we're just here doing shit. Like, it's really crazy. It really is. And, I don't know, man. It's taken me on some pretty crazy journeys, and I've learned a lot. I've been very fortunate that it's taken me some, like, guys like Gary Vee, for example. Are you familiar with Gary Vee?
I fucking love Gary Vee. And there's a lot of things that he says where it's very tough love, and I get it because I got to hear that sometimes. Because he's
been inspiration to me a lot. We had Gary Vee on the podcast.
Really?
You know, I've hung out with Gary Vee, and you know, we've done a lot of stuff, and they invited us to the Super Bowl and all these crazy things, and it's been very cool. It's been very humbling, but like, you know, having some private conversations with those guys, and you're like, dude, you are doing it. Like, keep doing what you're doing. This is awesome. And like, if it, you know, there's a lot of inspiring things, you know, to hear from people like that who have been there, done that, and who are like, you know, super pumped for you. And then also to see like they were in that same position not long ago, and here where they are now. So it's like, you know, guys like that just kind of give you that inspiration and motivation.
Would you ever like think about going in the same direction that he is, where he's like really doing motivational type stuff or coaching type things, where it comes to building other brands?
Yeah. So I do some consulting for other brands from time to time. I've kind of gotten away from it for a while because I just didn't have the bandwidth, and it became, you know, helping someone else kind of became a distraction to our own company. And I was like, you know, helping this guy for a week, like, cost me 60 grand of some distraction of our own stuff. You know, I'm like, oh, okay, let me dial this back like a little bit. And I'd like to get back to doing more of that stuff. But my YouTube channel, like the personal brand stuff that I was talking about, is kind of like, is that, but that's something I can do on my own time that doesn't require me to like schedule things with people and audit their website and give them an action plan. That those are the things that, like, when I have time to make a YouTube video or a tutorial about how to do a Facebook ad or what strategy to do or whatever, like, I do that when I have time. And those are the sort of the things that I'm like trying to build along the way.
I think the whole thing with having time is like the biggest issue for most people. It's like, when I find the time, but I mean, you're growing a business that you're passionate about. Maybe the other stuff, like, it's nice to have the sprinkles, but it's not as necessary. So it's trying to juggle, like, if the family's lacking, I'm going to really cut out the things that don't need to be there, and I'm going to focus more on the family.
Yeah, it's like goes that typical 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I just have a hard time with that. I'm like, 100% here, 100% here, 0% there. And I'm like, really bad.
So I like really incorporated the 80-20 rule and really lived by it when I started cutting weight. Like, I 2 years ago, I got to that point where I was like in a toxic place, like mentally and physically. And I was like carrying a shit ton of weight that I didn't need. And when I started dieting and intermittent fasting and all that stuff, I ended up getting down to like 8% body fat. So
good for you.
6 months of like,
trying to get there.
Holy shit. It was, but like when I got down there, I was like, is this worth it? Like, to be like miserable and antisocial and like
pizza and tacos as much as I do.
Yeah. Austin, I live in Austin, Texas. Let's be real. Like, it is probably the food capital of this part of the United States. Like, they have every type of food here, and it's amazing. And I'm not turning down tacos or a fucking huge donut if somebody's going to put it in front of my face. Like, I'll still go run or go lift weights, but I'm not turning that food down. It's just too good.
That's right.
Too good. But like right now, like with the whole Corona thing, I still go to work, but it's crazy seeing like, this is the world we're living in. Like, I have to wear a mask everywhere. I don't even see people's mouths anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It's ruined a lot of lives, man. You know what I mean? There's like, just like mentally, and you know, I know that a lot of people have gone through a lot of depression through it and things of that nature, and it's really, really sad and unfortunate. And even for the kids, there's a lot of kids who's, you know, it's really shifted, you know, a lot of kids' positions at home. A lot of, I know there's a lot of child abuse going on in terms of that too, because there's a lot of kids who are better off in schools and at daycares than they are at home because they have abusive parents, and now their parents are at home with their kids and they're miserable and they don't have a job anymore, and their parents are in depression and they're beating their kids. Like, that's a real problem.
It's terrifying. Like, could you imagine as a senior in high school, and maybe this is your year to really like shine playing any kind of sport.
Yeah.
And then that whole season was cut out.
Yeah.
And now you have no college. Who knows if college is actually going to happen? Like,
I know. And I feel like I have it bad. I was like super upset. My daughter missed her kindergarten graduation and they had it like on a Zoom call. And I was like, you know, here I am, like this dad, this cool, tough guy, but I'm like tearing up. I'm like, man, she like missed her kindergarten. She won't get that chance. She won't get that experience again. Like, that was just robbed.
It's a big memory. It's a monumental memory for her. And it's like, this is the first time that she could have, like, she would be, I don't know what kind of spotlight she's in already, but she would be a spotlight and all those kids would be that spotlight. And everybody's there to like really rejoice the moving into elementary school. So it's,
right.
I mean, that's kind of a big deal. And like, I've run into it with my son where he's, you know, he was like, I hated being at school, but you know, I miss my teachers. And I actually interviewed him for the show and to like kind of pick his brain on the fact that he missed the rest of his school year. Like, it's just wild. But yeah, I mean, we're moving in a direction, like as a country, where are we going to adapt to the change? Because it made me go full throttle on this stuff. So I was like, if things are shutting down, then I'm finding something.
Yeah, there's huge opportunity for stuff like this, where there's like people are consuming more content than ever. Like, I burned myself out in the first few weeks of this, and I went gangster. I'm talking like making all kinds of videos, putting out all kinds of content, talking about all new stuff. What we are also going into Father's Day and Mother's Day, launching new products. Like, I burned myself out to the point where I couldn't think straight anymore. Like, I would come in my office and I would sit there and stare at a computer and a checklist full of stuff. And I was like, didn't even know what to do. I'm like refreshing screens, hoping something would just happen. Like, it was bad. And I ended up taking a few days off and just staying at home and like had to kind of recalibrate, because I was like, I got to take advantage of all the opportunity. Everyone's scrolling through the phones. Like, I need to be there, you know?
That's, I feel like that's what
a lot of people
on TikTok was like, I created, and I kept creating for the channel and creating for TikTok. And it was like, it got to the point where it was blowing up. And I was like, I'm just sitting here refreshing the page. Like, well, fuck, I don't know what to create anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you just get into like that burnout stage where you're just like kind of dumb. Like, you're just like, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah. Yeah. So do the kids play sports or anything like that? Or were they playing sports?
My oldest daughter's like super into gymnastics, super competitive. And she's done a lot of like, she got second place in the state of South Carolina last year. And we're off to Tennessee tomorrow.
Nice.
For a gymnastics camp for her, where she's going to be training with like an Olympic gymnast or something. And
so are you like the dad that has matching outfits and is on the sideline screaming? Like, I
made a hoodie. Like, so this is what pisses me off about this. Damn it. Let's talk about this shit. Dads get excluded from stuff, especially girl stuff. It makes me mad. Like, you go to the gymnastics competitions and wait, hold on. What does that say? What is that?
This is my hoodie for my brand, and it's a light pink hoodie. Everybody fucking like designates all these colors for genders, and I was like, I'm gonna wear a fucking big hoodie. I'm 6'3". I'm 225. Like,
damn, you're 6'3". You're a big dude. So anyways, you go to the gymnastics competitions and everything is like gymnastics mom, gymnastics mom, gymnastics mom. I'm like, what about the fucking dads? You know? So I made myself a hoodie. It's like an OD green hoodie. It says, because gymnastics competitions are usually in the fall, so it's cool outside, but it says gymnastics dad in like a, you know, like a military stencil font. And then it's got like a bunch of like letters and numbers, but it's like her initials, her birthday, and like, it has our gymnastics team name on it and stuff. And then all the other dads like, hey, where'd you get that hoodie at? Where'd you get that? And I'm like, I made it. You want one? Like, I'll sell you one. But it's like, why do we get excluded? Like, we don't matter. We don't count. And that's what's wrong. There's so many problems in society. And this is going to kind of circle back to what I want to talk to you about, is some of the broken home, no father figure sort of stuff. And like so many things that's wrong in the world because of that. But like, there's some some cases where it just happens because dad's a douche bag and he's like, not my problem, not my, I'm out, peace, good luck. And like, there's no father figure in the home. Then there's stuff that like society excludes dad from certain things. Like forever, there was no diaper bags for dad. And like, it was like, well, that's mom's job. She can change the diaper, like that's bullshit. Like, and then there's, even recently I was talking about this the other day on a podcast with Craig Sawyer, and like that, a lot of dads are getting excluded from like going to a doctor's checkup with their newborn baby and stuff like that. It's like, whoa, why doesn't dad matter here? Like, guess what? We all live in the same house. We're all drinking from the same crap, or we're all sharing the same germs. Like, if she's got corona, I've got corona. We're all coming in here together,
That's what I'm saying too. Like, so it's been 7 months, and I went to one of the first appointments, and then the second that things started progressively getting worse, hey, dad can't go anymore. And we had scheduled out 4 appointments.
It's bullshit. You get robbed the opportunity to go to an ultrasound or to do this or to find out what the sex of the child is with your wife. It's bullshit.
Yeah. So
it pisses me off. If you could
definitely like pivoted and made like the decisions to find out this stuff together. Like when she's at home, she's like, I wouldn't open it up until we were together, or like,
right. Which is great.
But it's like, it still sucks. Like it's not the natural way. Like I should be able to be there and fucking support her because I know she's going through some shit alone in the doctor's office that she hasn't dealt with before. And like for her to be like sitting in his room, waiting in the doctor's office, like, I wonder if he's going to come in soon. This is kind of strange. And then like, there's certain questions that it comes up, like as the partner, like you remember shit that she doesn't remember when you guys have already talked about it. And then when she leaves the office, she's like, oh, fuck, I forgot to ask.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real issue, and I think it's really screwed up, and it sucks, But the other thing, this whole lack of a father figure thing. While we're talking about it, I had Craig Sawyer on the podcast, or he was on our podcast. We were talking about human trafficking. He's like fighting with human trafficking and child sex slavery and things of that nature, and a lot of it stems from a lack of a father. People that get trapped into it, like, that become victims, that are looking for that validation. They're looking for they have low self-esteem, and like, here's some guy that's going to tell somebody there's something really good about themselves, boys, girls, it doesn't matter. It's like they start to get a little bit of that self-esteem, a little bit of a rise from this person that's saying good things about them. And then all of a sudden they trust this person, and they fall into being a victim of human trafficking or child sex slavery, or, rape, and all these crazy things that are happening. Because that little girl had daddy issues.
Yeah, it's crazy that it happens at all ages. Like
from like 6 to
never grow out of it. They never grow out of it, and they're looking for that validation when like the validation they should be searching for, which is one of the reasons why I started this, was like, I don't need to validate you. There's things that you got to fucking tell yourself to, like, hey, look in the mirror and like, you look good today. No fucking person needs to tell you that. It's nice to hear it, but like, you don't need that validation. But the fact that there are so many people that grew up in those homes that it was so broken or complicated and messed up that they get trapped into that life, whether it's drug induced or both. And it's like children in that life. Children. Like, that is.
And maybe this is a personal question. Did you have anything that you dealt with that you feel like stemmed from that, as you were someone that just, told me at the beginning of this that you had a lack of a father figure? You said
so. Like when I was growing up, the image of him wasn't there. So like, since I think I was 2 or 3 when my mom like loaded up a U-Haul with her 3 boys and drove across the country to California. And we were from Illinois to California. She lived on her friend's floor until she could afford a place for us to live. And then like her parents, they were like, no, you're not coming home. Like you're married. Like, why are you coming home? Like, and that's the age it was, like stubborn father and mother. And then like both of the parents were like, no, that's your man. Like, you deal with that shit. And a lot of people, when they speak up, especially nowadays, like they know, is somebody going to listen? Some people are, some people aren't. But like going back to the whole thing, like my mom married when I was like 10, I think 8 or 9, 10. And we were, 3 boys, like wrecking the fucking town. So as a stepfather coming into this house where like these kids are just little tornadoes. Yeah. So it's like, this guy's got to really love this woman, like for real. But it was always like when I started to realize that the person that I should have paid attention to the most, it was like towards the end of his life, and it was my grandpa. So my grandpa really stepped up and was like, "Hey, come out, like I'm going to put you to work." He had like 2 acres of land. He had fruit trees, all this other stuff, but he was a decent way away. And it was like, this is a really smart, stubborn, ornery ass old man, but he knows stuff and he's made things happen for himself. And maybe things have changed in the way that he mentally operates. And like, I really started focusing on that. And I was like, there's so many stories that came from him that he eventually was the father figure. And then when like I was stuck in California before I moved to Texas until he passed away. And that was the only reason I was staying in California, was like, there's this man that has stepped up and been that position. And like the second he was gone, deuces. Like my family was all there still. My family still is all there. I mean, Texas alone, I have a family of my own now, but it was like, you have to make that decision to like grow the fuck up, step up and make those masculine decisions as a father and take care of what you need to provide for your own. And
right.
It's crazy to see how people go the other way, because I work with that on the other side of the coin so often.
Oh, that's right. You were working corrections.
Yeah. So I'm a team leader for a tactical operations unit and for the corrections bureau, and I see and work with guys that have kind of dealt with the same thing, and they're like, "Yeah, man, I had to sell trees to, provide for my family, or I got eight kids and I know like 3 of their names. Like, what is happening? Why are we continue to procreate when like?" Anyways, I won't go down that path. Yeah, it's a slippery slope. Another
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. But
good for you for taking the path that you did. It seems like things are looking up for you, and you're in a good place.
Oh my gosh. And it's the being grateful for where I am. Like of course, I could buy more and want more and really be like, oh, I could afford that, but it's not the time right now. It's not. And it's like, I am very grateful for the little things I have, even this shit. Like, I'm super grateful to have a microphone in front of me and to be able to sit and talk to you. Like, we're both humans. We live, normal lives, or relatively normal lives. And like, to share that type of energy with other people that don't know us is crazy. And then our kids feed off of that. Our kids. Because like, the energy
we have to be role models for them, right? Like they're just going to mimic what we're doing,
Yes. And like the viral videos are the little kids that are mimicking what mom was yelling at them. Like, that stuff's hilarious.
It's funny.
Yeah.
And it happens to all of us as parents. You're like, oh, I wonder where they picked up on how to say that. It happens all the time.
To go through that all over again, I'm super excited.
Yeah. You're gonna get, that stage, and you have a 12-year-old, so you'll get this, where you've like, they start to understand certain things, or they know what certain words are. So now you have to spell it, and you're like, hey, you're spelling some random word you don't want them to hear, or you're talking about, should we get, ice cream tonight, but you're like trying to say it in some random code so they don't know, because you don't want them to actually know what's going on, or whatever the case is. But then they get old enough to know what you're spelling, and you're like, shit, I don't have any code language anymore. They know how to spell. So you're just completely screwed. And then you're just like, all right, there's no getting around this.
So like, Lydia speaks fluent Spanish, and like I've been trying to learn Spanish, so like we talk Spanish back and forth in front of my son because he doesn't know Spanish. So I'm like, if we want something, we usually communicate it that way. And then she's like, no, well, when Sophia gets here, she's going to speak fluent Spanish. Well, then how are we going to hide this stuff? So,
yeah, we need a new code language.
Let's just learn German.
It needs to be like parent language. Jeez.
Rosetta Stone needs a new update.
Yeah.
Speaking
tactical parent langue.
We might be onto something.
You're like Morse code.
So outside of the business, outside of the family stuff, like and the cars, like what really, when you turn it all off, do you regress to, like, to really recenter yourself?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, man. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. My passion and I enjoy working and doing things and trying to progress things, and having fun. Like I usually regress to like something fun, like whether that's like going for a helicopter ride or racing cars or just making a video. Like I like making things or working on my car. Dude, I still have a like full car shop here where I took my custom car shop. I condensed it. I kept like the things I really needed or wanted to be able to make stuff. You know, I've got my lift here. I've got a lathe here and a mill and like a full toolbox and all my fabrication stuff. Like, so, you know, those are things that I regress to. Like on a weekend, I'm like, I just want to go in the shop and like get dirty and build something. Like those are some things that like get me out of my own head, you know, to like sort of recalibrate. So
that's pretty badass. So we're at the tail end of the episode, and I usually like to turn the mic over to the guest. If you have anything you'd like to say, anything in it, like, it's all you. And once again, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you're super busy. It was super fucking nice to meet you.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. And I appreciate the invite, you know, and to help spread our message and share the story. So it's been really cool. Turn the mic over to me. And what do I want to say? I don't know. I've said a lot. I tend to bounce all over the place. I have a lot to say at times, but then when someone asks me like, what do you want to say? I'm like, oh, you know, I think it's just kind of follow your passions, and work really hard at those things, and it will come around. It will pay off. Try to be smart about the decisions you make and be a good role model for future generations. Like a lot of the people I'm sure listening aren't parents, but some of those who, you know, they're not parents yet and they might be a parent soon. So like try to be a good role model, be there for your kids, make sure they know they're loved. That goes much further than you would think. And, you know, the generation we're looking at and dealing with right now in society that's like ruining things. Yeah. Those are the kids that didn't have enough guidance, you know, that weren't spanked. They were never told no. And they're just throwing a huge temper tantrum right now. So, again, it kind of goes back to just, you know, being a good role model, teaching kids what's right and wrong and sticking to it.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much. And on that, like, I 100% agree, because I got my ass whooped when I was growing up. My mom had to stick up for herself.
Most of the people that I talk to who are doing good things, like they're all say like, I wouldn't do that. My dad whooped my ass, you know, stuff like that. And we're like, yeah, well, no shit. Like,
I mean, have you ever been at a public park and they go tell you to find a branch? Like,
yeah. Well, you know, my favorite, you know, I'm going to start asking this question on my podcast. Like, what was the thing that like struck the most fear in you that like your mom or dad would say to you? And for me, it's like, do I need to take you into the bathroom? And you're like, oh shit, I'm stopping right now. You're in like a restaurant, you know, and you're like, they can't hear you scream from the bathroom.
So I got one more story before we get off, because I feel like we cannot not share this.
Okay.
Me and my brother's working at Papa Murphy's Pizza. It's like one of those like take and bake pizza shops.
Mm-hmm.
And he was working there, and at the end of the night, he would bring home like a shit ton of pizzas. So we were really poor, so we were eating the shit out of these pizzas as teenagers. And we're at the house, we're just hanging out, really just like making trouble like usual. And
right.
we're sitting around the table. We completely forgot that the pizza was in the oven, and that's all we had to eat for that night. So my mom gets home from work. This oven's like smoking, and she walks in, and I've never heard her cuss, because this is like a very like church Bible going, like the family. And
that's me. Yeah.
She walks into the kitchen, and she takes his pizza out of the oven. We're sitting around this like circle table, and she fucking throws it without oven mitts, nothing. She takes it out of the oven and throws this smoking pizza at us. She's like, that was our dinner. That was it. I was like, oh yeah, we're all fucked.
I will never burn another pizza, Mom. Sorry.
Never. I learned how to bake from that day forward. I think I was 12. So it's like, but thank you again for being on the show. I love the energy, and I really hope we can stay in touch, because I mean this was a lot of fun. And thank you, Jade, for coordinating all this stuff, and congratulations on the job. So, but until next time, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Bev, for being here, or Beav for being here, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Peace.